Hey, it's Jason, ODB the Lincoln Addict. We're going to go through this 1961 Lincoln Continental brochure, kind of dealership brochure. I would like to remind you guys, if you want to hit up LincolnAddict.com, you can buy stickers. I've got blue or white. You could buy one, two, or you can mix and match the colors. I usually ship them the next business day. There's also shirts available, so check it out. So I finally got the electric set up in my building, and hopefully the shadows won't be too bad. Got some new LEDs in here. Wanted to go through this recent pickup of this item with you guys. 61, a lot of people's favorite year. Classic beauty in a smart new size. I won't read all this, but check it out. Lincoln Continental for 61, America's first ideally sized fine car. Got to remind you guys, if you think of the 58, 59, and 60, they were even bigger boats, so to speak. I had a pleasure of driving and riding in a 58 that Tony Boss Bolin had. Ended up selling that car to Snoop Dogg, which was kind of cool. But let's jump right in here. One thing I love about these old brochures are the photos. You know, oftentimes there's not a lot of photos of these cars kind of new, so to speak. There's a few floating around, excuse me, from the assembly line, but not a lot that I found. This one always kind of tripped me out because the dog stayed with the leash attached. And you got the old folks. What's he doing? Pulling her up the mountainside? What are they going to do, right? I don't know. Crazy kind of situations. But again, it's kind of, something I like to look at from the period to be able to see just how stuff was laid out as far as photography and whatnot. Excuse me. Now, I have seen somewhere, I read that someone believed this to be a hardtop car. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this for a second. There were 4 hardtops produced in 61 as far as what we know. The difference between a hardtop and a sedan, okay? A typical sedan is going to be a 4-door car, but it has the post right there. The hardtops are 4-door cars with no post, where it's just completely free through there, right? Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, there's a post right there. I read somewhere that was airbrushed in afterwards. Does anybody know? Now, if you look at this side, it's kind of hard to see where the reflection's at if there's a post there. It doesn't look like it. Like right there where the door lock deal would be, the knob, right here you would think you would see it. And again, it's hard to see. Now, the ironic thing is they did make 4 of the hardtops. From what we can tell, they decided not to because it was going to add an extra cost. And the cars were already pretty costly, especially with the type of test drives and things that they were doing to make them reliable cars, that they decided to go against the hardtop, right? So it is basically considered a sedan with the post. Now, Pat Tehan, I don't want to go into this whole thing. We've talked about it on the podcast before. He offers an auto drop setup that he has created so that guys can go and put the convertible rear glass in these cars and get rid of that post. For years, people said it was structural. It's 100% not structural. That thing comes out. You wouldn't believe how easy it comes out. So, does anybody know, do you think this is a hardtop, or do you think it really was the sedan with the post there? Hard to tell. Let's keep it on. Now, I did this flip through earlier, and I decided to come out here and do it. I think I skipped a page too, which I don't want to do this time. Love this photo. Here it says on the little caption, shown in a blue nylon net with matching metallic finish leather. So a misconception is often that these cars all had leather. You could see some leather here, but the entire seat is not leather. And this goes back to Lincoln's commitment to quality and just using some of the finest materials out there and just the elegance of the cars. This is a cool photo I like here at your fingertips. Wait, a complete staff of power servants. And you can see there she's got the kit gloves on. Now, here's the other reason why I wanted to point this out. We've talked about this recently, that the vent windows, the majority of those that you see from 61 to 63 are power. But you can see here, this was not power. I just took my 92-year-old grandfather, my grandfather-in-law, wife's grandfather, on a ride in the red 65, Rita Hayworth that we have. He was blown away when he hit the switch for the vent window. And he's like, I have never seen something like that. You know, he's just so used to the cranks. So it was pretty cool that the majority of them did have that. I think 1 to 3, you could get them at least 61, you could get them with non-power. You see them sometimes in 61 to 68, they'll be non-power. The wiring apparently is there in 66, 67, 68. But, you know, again, kind of odd to see that. You don't see it too often. So Lincoln Continental 4-door sedan interior. So I'll hover over that. You can bounce this up to 4K if you need to. I do film in 4K, and, you know, keep in mind, YouTube defaults typically to the best speed for the bandwidth, or the best overall quality. Polished walnut, it talks about right there. So, the 4-door convertible. Again, love seeing these photos, kind of how things were different, how they dressed, how the cars looked when they were new. Of course, 61 to 63, you had the 14-inch hubcaps. I really like these hubcaps. I recently bought a couple from a guy from the Lincoln Forum, and I really do dig them. In 64, they went to the 15-inch hubcap. In 65, they kept the same hubcap as 64, but they went to disc brakes. Here you got the puppy hanging out with the leash. 61, again, many people love this year. If you check out Lincoln Addict Podcast episode 26, I literally recorded it yesterday. We have Brian Fuller on, and we talk a little bit about the history of Lincoln. And he shares some stuff with me I had no idea. But we talk about, in 61, there is, you know, you kind of see the design elements of the Thunderbird. So, you know, with that front end. A lot of people said that. This is a cool photo. Again, different landscape. You know, they're way up there. They got some crazy pillars, cool architecture. I always wondered where these kind of photos were taken. You'd think somewhere up in Michigan, you know, but always curious if you guys ever knew someone that, you know, was a paid photographer or worked for Lincoln back in the day, and you know, I'd love to hear from you guys. Lincoln Continental 4-door convertible interior. The spacious convertible passenger compartment features soft hand-trimmed leather seats. You can kind of see the rest there. Very cool. Love, again, looking at this stuff, looking at the styles of the era. In this photo, the car looks so big, and it's still crazy to me that in 64 they did lengthen a little bit to have the extra leg room. So again, 61 through 63, kind of the same, if not almost the overall same body. 64, 65 changed, and they're almost identical. This photo here, you got the home guy, home dude. The homeboy's like, uh-oh, it's raining. So they're talking about the weather-resistant top, stores completely within the rear deck. It's raised power locks secure to the windshield. Keyword, automatically. You can see the antenna back here, which is one of the things I like on 61, 62. We talked about that a little bit with Brian Fuller and Tony Boss Bolin on episode 26. Again, just posted today of Lincoln Addict Podcast. Here again, you see the antenna on the back. Real cool photo. Got the dog in there, which I think is cool. And just a cool landscape. I'd imagine these photos had to have been taken, you know, maybe the early, I don't know if they ran some of these early off the assembly line to be able to, you know, or these are the first ones off the assembly line. But, you know, looking at some of the press kits, like for 64, you know, the cars were available like September, October timeframe from the previous year. So, you know, if this is a 61 model, you know, these would have been available kind of third quarter of 1960. going into the new year. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but I would imagine August, September. They'd have to take all these photos. If not, these were maybe pre-production cars. I don't know, but to be able to get the photos for these catalogs and brochures or whatever. The Lincoln Continental Spirit, so you can kind of see there, you slip into action with startling ease and silence. America's largest V8 responds instantly to the slightest command. Beautiful color here. Love the blues of the era. Towards the end, they will show the colors, so we'll get a chance to see those. Discover the completeness of the Lincoln Continental. They're counterbalanced, so they glide open at the slightest touch. That's one thing that I think is underestimated, how well the doors just open. And if you've ever ridden in one of these cars, when you shut the door, I mean, it's a real door, man. You kind of hear it. Of course, I don't slam the door, but it shuts just with ease. Here's a beautiful photo. I've talked about this in the past. 61, and per Tim Nill, rest in peace, the early 62s had the keyhole. And that keyhole, you would just, there's a little notch there, and you could kind of put your key and move it up, or I'm sure your fingernail, and you'd put the key in there. But again, that was 61, and I'm told early 62s. I don't know what point the cutoff was, if anybody happens to know. If you have a 62, chime in. Does yours have that? So I'll just get this in case you want to read that. Talks about the automatic trans, power steering, the heater, power windows. Here's fully transistorized radio, power-operated door locks, full foam cushion seats, and then some of the optional equipment, which includes air conditioning. Twin blowers and scientifically designed cool air outlets are employed to provide better air distribution. Now, I don't own a 1, 2, or 3, but this is one of my favorite things about the dashes. I mean, I love the blue, but take a look at where the vents are. Those are the center vents, and you pull that open. If it doesn't have AC, I'm trying to remember, I think it's storage. But I'm pretty sure if it doesn't have AC, those aren't there. It's not where the heat would come out. Keep me honest if you have one, going from memory. So another beautiful car here. Awesome color. And you can see just a different era in style and grace. You can see the hubcaps there. Not really often talked about, but even stock, these cars to me are pretty low. Being a fan of, airbagged cars and low cars and being around air suspension since the late 90s, I love all that stuff. But I tell you what, these cars, even stock, look fantastic. And, people have said that all these years later, how good they ride. If you ever if you ever own one of these and you want to refurbish something, get new springs. They make them, a couple companies, and leaf springs. Swap that with some shocks. People have said they will ride just as good as the day they came off the showroom lot, or the dealer lot, rather. Lincoln Continental for 61, a unique achievement in reliability. And here's where they kind of talk about the 12,000 mile warranty. They were really pushing the envelope, and I think with some of the older stuff I've shared that Jim airs, kind of the unearthed video for the 65, I think they had got up to maybe even 24,000, I think, mile warranty. Speaking of that, you got the quality audit area. So very cool photo there with that sunburst yellow. Kind of getting all this in case you guys want to check it out. Take your screenshots or whatever. There's a gentleman, I forget his name. I'll have to give him credit in the future. He chimed in on one of my videos where I talked about, it was a Bring a Trailer review, and I talked about how the cars did not have a fan shroud, and he reinforced if the car did not have AC, it did not have a fan shroud. Something I want to point out. This is the fan for the non-air conditioned car. So you see it has the 4 main blades on it. It wasn't as beefy, and it didn't have a fan clutch. So a non-AC car isn't going to have, from what he was telling me, the fan shroud, or and then on top of that, it'll have the different fan, and it won't have a fan clutch. New machines, new assembly methods, bring precision aircraft tolerance to this fine car. And kind of a cool photo, just kind of reinforcing the quality. You could imagine someone that had the money, you know, the $6,000 to $7,000 in this era, which doesn't sound like a lot today. It was a lot of money then. You know, they would want to see things. You know, if you were sitting down with, you know, maybe a guy was trying to convince his wife, hey, let's get a new Lincoln. You best believe, you know, the salesmen at that time were kind of reinforcing, you know, all of these different things. And, you know, that's why they had these brochures, so they could sit down with them and kind of go through it, and it gave them the talking points. Always like this photo. Kind of reminds me of some of the old stuff you've seen, like the test tracks, and I'm guessing it was taken on Ford's facility somewhere. You can kind of see lightly paved road there. But a cool photo, no tag on it, and of course got the antenna back there for 61. A final step before delivery. So I haven't spoken a lot about this, but there was a 12-mile road test. And when we look back at the old road tests, that the one, this name slipped in my mind, that he did for Car and Driver and things like that, or Motor Trend. There's one guy that did all the Lincoln road tests for the magazines. He talks about a lot of this kind of stuff and the quality that they had, that went into it. 189 careful, time-consuming steps to assure Lincoln owners the most completely reliable driving possible. I've read and I've seen, like what you see here, how they would dyno test the engines before they would even install them. So, you know, a crazy amount of commitment. And as much as sometimes they're ragged on these days for kind of breaking down here and there, you got to think these cars are 60 years old, give or take, right? Cars are going to break down. If you change the points, you know, and you keep the oil changed, and, you know, spark plugs and things like that. These cars, these engines are tanks. They will continue to last. There's a few things you got to do, like the timing gear setup and stuff. I'm working on a video for that. More to come. So colors and specifications there, so you can kind of see engine, lube, exhaust, fuel system, cooling, electrical, brakes, trans, suspension, steering, rear axle, wheel and tires, dimensions, Lincoln Mercury Division, Ford Motor Company. And then here's the colors. These are the exterior colors. A couple of these were for 61 only. There's two of them, and I always forget which colors they were. That's a cool color, Desert Frost Metallic. I love the blues. I think the names changed a little bit, like Huron Blue is like what my 64 is. I guess that's the color. I do think the names changed. I always remember the Sunburst Yellow. What's your favorite color? 60s Lincoln. I love the turquoise. Something I meant to point out at the top there. So this one's got, you know, a little bit of wear to it, but I love how the detail that they had. You can kind of see the logo there, a little scuffed over the course of time. That actually has brought it out some, but you can kind of see it there in 4K. So Lincoln Continental for 1961. Very cool. Go back on our reels, go back on some of our YouTubes. Well, I think on our YouTube channel, but I know on Instagram I've posted some of the old videos that Jim Ayers from the LCOC Western crew, that they have posted. And it's amazing to see the old videos that are narrated, where they talk about you know, these cars, and they were like dealership videos and stuff. And there's not a lot of that stuff out there. So thanks to Jim Ayers, again, LCOC Western, for some of the stuff that he's unearthed over the course of time. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. It really helps us, helps me out a lot. And check out Lincoln Addict Podcast. You can Google, or you can go to lincolnaddict.com, and you can click how to listen, and there's links there that'll take you on Apple Podcast. It's a pre-installed app, or on Podbean for Android is the easiest way. Just search Lincoln Addict. Appreciate everyone's time. Have a great weekend. Stay on the rise. We out of here. Peace.